One of the biggest downfalls of modern day gaming is stick drifting, and one of the biggest perpetrators of this, the Nintendo Switch. Back last year, I modded this Nintendo Switch and I put this really nice little shell on it, and I messed about with it and got it all up and running and looking great on my original OG Switch. However, recently I've started to notice a lot of stick drifting, and this has been a major problem, and this is a well-known problem for Nintendo as well as PlayStation really in modern day. This is definitely something that all modern controllers tend to have a bit of difficulty with. It tends to be due to the sticks themselves actually just wearing down over time and then sort of drifting to one area. And I was finding this was a major problem with my Nintendo Switch. So what are the options out there? What can you actually do? Well, for a while, Nintendo were actually offering to be able to go out and send your console back or your controllers back, and they will fix the problem for free. However, that can be quite lengthy, and I like to have a little mess about. So I was looking around on the internet, and I actually went on Amazon and bought these cheap little Joy-Cons to replace and give it a go. So in this video, we're going to find out how good are these little Joy-Cons that you can buy the little switches from. Let's see how good they actually are. So there are a few little things that you will need. Now, these are things that I already had because I like to tinker around with a lot of different stuff. However, these you will need if you are going to be getting into this sort of thing. So the first thing that you're going to need is a tri-wing screwdriver. Now, this is because this is a Nintendo standard practice. If you want to get into any sort of Nintendo system, from NES all the way up to modern day, then you're going to need the tri-wing screwdriver. This does also have a Phillips type of screw in there as well, so you're going to need those as well. Now, these are kits that you can also find on Amazon. You can tend to find them in most places. They're not super duper hard to find, but you do need the tiny ones because you do need to get into those really small holes. The other thing I'd also recommend, it isn't necessary, but it's one of those things that I do think you should have, is a little spudger of some kind. Something just to, maybe help pop open some of the little tabs on there or something like that, because although, you can break these things so easily. So as you can see in this game, there is a lot of drifting going on. It is quite difficult to actually play these days and actually just try and get any sort of use out of it. So the thing is, we're going to open it up. So the first thing we need to do is get these Joy-Cons out. These are the actual Joy-Cons. They sent me two, so I'm going to be replacing both of them, even though it's only the right stick that seems to be giving most of the jip. This part is supposed to be the simplest part, but I actually ran into an issue here with the top screw. It actually rounded on me, which was a major problem. So off camera, I actually drilled into this screw to get it out because nothing else that I was trying was actually working to be able to get this thing out. Drilling it was the only way. Now again, one of the biggest problems with this sort of thing is there are a lot of little ribbon cables that can be quite problematic. So you actually have to be really careful when opening this up. So once you do eventually get all the screws out, you have to turn it in such a way that you have to be careful because there are two ribbon cables that will fold over. I didn't actually detach these little ribbon cables, I just kind of left them in there. I had to remove the battery as well to get to the actual part where the Joy-Con is because there's this little plastic cover that's covering it all. Once you're in there, it's just a case of a few screws and you can pull it out. And this one was pretty straightforward. It just kind of came out really easy. Then you just detach the actual ribbon cable and you're pretty much good to go. You just reverse all the steps and get that back in there. And before I screwed it all back in, I just wanted to make sure that it was all working as it was supposed to do. And to my relief, it actually all booted up fine. It worked fine. It recognized the Joy-Con straight away. It was like I hadn't even touched it, which is great. Then we got onto the second one. Now this one was a little bit more fiddlier. It had a lot of other parts. And when I was removing the pieces, the actual ribbon cables did come out. So that was a whole other thing that I didn't really want to mess about with. However, it's just what it is. Sometimes these things just can't be helped. So again, it was very much the same sort of process. Again, because it was so fiddly, I had to skip a lot of the parts that I did here because my big head was in the way. And one thing I'd also recommend as well is making sure that you put your screws in some sort of like order or like collection together, because otherwise you might end up with a bunch of screws, and you don't want to be screwing them into the wrong place because you might over thread, or they are actually different sizes as well, so that can be something just to be mindful of. Again, before I actually finished putting it all back together, I just kind of booted it up, tested it, made sure that it all recognized it, and again, it just worked straight away, so that was really good. And as you can see here by the gameplay, it seems to work absolutely perfectly. I had zero issues following doing this process. It was actually really good. So what would I actually rate these little tiny Joy-Con analog sticks? I would say they're really good. They actually feel exactly the same as what Nintendo actually brought out. I don't think there's any actual difference other than now they don't drift anymore. So that is definitely a problem solved. So I would definitely say if you've got the know-how and you know what you're doing with this sort of thing, then you can definitely do this as a cheap replacement or an option rather than having to send your stuff off to Nintendo. Like I said, I don't even know if they're doing that right now. I'll put a little thing by here if they are. But I am very happy with this overall. I think this is actually like an amazing little thing that you can do just to kind of renew your Joy-Cons rather than have to spend another 50 plus quid trying to get it all sorted, because my God, these things are not cheap even now. You'd think over time they would have gone down, but they're not. And they're just really expensive and they're prone to breaking. So this is just a really easy little avenue just to go down, make things a lot easier. I highly recommend it. And like I said, it's quite inexpensive to actually replace these. The only problem is you do need that little bit of patience, because the amount of fiddliness with a Joy-Con is just unbelievable. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.